Hey guys, let's go ahead and go over this independent, dependent variables sort that you did today. Okay, so we're going to cut and paste those items in for the independent and dependent variable that match the experiment, and then we're going to add together the control variables. So the definition for the experiment was a scientific procedure carried out to test a hypothesis or demonstrate a known fact. Your independent variable is the part of the experiment that is manipulated or changed in order to test the hypothesis. The dependent variable is going to be the part of the experiment that changes in a measurable way in response to what is being tested. So it's going to be the results. Your constant or your controls are going to be the part of the experiment that stay the same to make it valid. All right, so let's take a look at the first one that says, how does the amount of water affect the height a sunflower grows? So the thing that we are purposely going to change will be the amount of water given to each plant. What we're going to measure then, our dependent variable, is going to be the height the sunflower grows. What do we have to keep the same? Well, we have to keep the same type of water. We can't add like salt water to one, sugar water to one, and regular water to another, because that's not what we're testing. The type of water, we're testing the amount of water. So the type of water has to stay the same. You have to have the same location of the plant. It has to be the same soil, the same fertilizer, and you have to have started with the same original plant if you did not use seeds to start with. Okay, so those are the things that have to be kept the same. All right, let's take a look at this next one. How does the amount of fertilizer affect how many potatoes a plant produces? All right, so the thing that we are purposely changing will be the amount of fertilizer given to each plant. What we are measuring then would be the number of potatoes produced by that plant. So what do we have to keep the same? Well, it has to be the same soil, the same water, the same sunlight, the same size of the original plant if you did not use seeds, okay? All right, let's take a look at this next one. How does the mass of a paper airplane affect how far it will fly? Alrighty, so what we are purposely changing will be the mass of the airplane. So how you're going to do that is you're going to use different types of paper. Maybe you would use a index card, and then maybe you would use a piece of printer paper, or you might use a piece of lined paper, or you might use a Post-it. So all of those pieces of paper have different masses, would therefore change the mass of that airplane. All right, so what are we going to measure then is the distance traveled by the airplane. All right, so what are some of the things that you have to keep the same? We have to keep the same design of the airplane, so it needs to be folded the exact same way. It needs to be thrown by that same person, so that technique is not something that is a variable and changes. You need to have the same condition for each throw. You can't do one outside where it is windy and then do one inside where there is no wind. All right, let's take a look at the next one. How does the amount of soil in the water affect how fast it boils? What is the thing that we are purposely changing? The independent variable is going to be the amount of salt in the water. What we are going to then measure will be the amount of time that the water takes to boil. So what we have to keep the same, we have to have the same amount of water. We have to use the same type of pot. You have to use the same thermometer. You have to use the same type of water. You know, you can't have like a sugar water or some type of distilled water versus tap water versus sparkling water, because that you've changed the type of water at that point, and you can't do that. So the type of water has to be the same, and then also the same type of heating tool. So where are you heating this water? Are you doing it on a Bunsen burner? Then you need to do that for all of your trials. Or did you do it on the stove? Then you do the same for all of your trials, okay? All righty. So does the color of birdseed affect how much birds will eat? All right, so what are we purposely changing is the color of the birdseed. What we're going to measure then will be the amount of birdseed eaten. So what do you have to keep the same? The only thing that we are changing is the color of the birdseed, but you have to have the same type of birdseed. You have to have the same location of the bird feeder, and you have to have the same amount of seed to start with. If we're measuring how much is eaten, we have to start with the exact same amount of each color, or else that's not fair. All right, let's take a look at our very last one. Does the size of a bouncy ball affect how high it bounces? So what are we changing? Will be the type of bouncy ball. What we are measuring will be the height the ball bounced. So what do we have to keep the same? We have to drop it from the same height every single time. We have to measure it on the same trial. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to take your measurement on the first drop, you have to do it for each one. If you're going to give yourself a practice drop and mark your height on your second drop, you have to do that every single time. You have to have a practice and then your trial. Or you're going to drop it on the first and measure it on the first drop every single time. Whatever you decide to do with your experiment, be consistent. And it also has to, these individual size bouncy balls need to be inflated the same amount, okay? You can't have one that's like over inflated and one that's like not hardly inflated, because we all know that a ball that's not properly inflated doesn't bounce at all, okay? So they have to be all inflated the same amount, okay? So that is what we did today in class. So I hope this helps. Make sure that you have all of the correct answers, and take care now. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.